Hey everyone, welcome back to Read Pulse. Today, we are diving into an epic story about an orphan who outsmarts a family of gorgeous but completely unhinged brothers. When the couple arrived at the orphanage, I was working as the emotional support kid. A troublemaker was crying, begging me to slap him because he felt off. The director looked shocked. But then the couple walked straight to me. What a wonderful child. She stays so calm even in a situation like this. You'll definitely get along with our boys at home. The moment I got in their car, floating text appeared before my eyes. The three brothers at home all have issues. Baby girl's about to switch from being the orphanage therapist to the family therapist. Sweetheart, you're a little cream puff. Oh, he'll the male lead. Too bad those boys are all trouble. They'll torment her now while they're young. Only when they grow up will they realize they loved her too much. Then they'll start chasing her obsessively. Only 3 of them? What the heck were these messages talking about? I reached for the car door handle, ready to jump out. But before I could touch it, the muscular dad grabbed my collar and lifted me back into my seat. Like a kitten. I didn't give up. I climbed up from the back seat and weakly pounded on the window. The director outside saw me and waved goodbye with a satisfied smile. I almost passed out from panic. That old fool never researched the families who adopted kids. I'd been adopted twice before and both were absolute disasters. One was a creepy 56-year-old single man. The other wanted me as a future bride for their chubby son. Each time, I had to act like a demon child to make them give up on me. But now wasn't the time to celebrate my genius. Even if I had to jump out and land on my butt, I wasn't going to be anyone's little cream puff. I was about to crawl around in the car and bark like a dog, to scare them into returning me. But then another message floated by. The brothers won't understand what they've lost until college. Right now, baby girl will just have to endure everything. All she'll get is $50,000 a month in allowance. So pitiful. Wait. Are you serious or trolling? Why didn't you say so earlier? I sat back down like a good girl, with tears in my eyes. I hugged the new mom and whispered, "So this is what having a mother feels like." She looked at me with such pity and gently stroked my hair. I thought of something and asked softly, "Mom, what if the brothers don't like me? What if they complain about me to you?" The mom seemed normal enough. She knew her sons were trouble. Without hesitation, she promised. Who would dare? I won't believe a word they say. If anyone bullies you, I'll cut off all their allowances. Actually, before the couple arrived, I'd already learned about this family from the floating messages. And the director. After hearing about the endless money, I'd spent days thinking about how to stand out. After all, I wasn't that young. People wouldn't adopt a big kid who might never bond with them. When the couple came to the orphanage today, I'd cleverly used that troublemaker kid to my advantage. It worked perfectly. I reviewed my performance. Brothers needed an emotionally stable sister, which was the only reason I got picked. Too passive. I buried my face in my new mom's arms, my brain working overtime. Thankfully, the orphanage director loved watching short dramas, and I'd learned a lot from them. I started thinking creatively about how to secure my position in this new home and protect my monthly allowance. I glanced at the floating text again. They were already talking about something else. I shipped the future eldest brother with the female lead. I love it when powerful men bow down. The eldest is the oldest, so he matured early from taking care of his brothers. He's also the most neglected child and desperately needs love. Now he's emotionally cold and barely speaks unless necessary. Basically a selective mute. But the second brother is totally spoiled by the parents. He was taken by rivals before and after he came back. Personality changed completely. Now he gets whatever he wants. At his young age, he's already lawless. Doesn't study, doesn't go to school. Don't you think the third brother is the real psycho? He keeps everything bottled up inside. Right now, he's a creepy, quiet kid. But later, he becomes the obsessive villain who forces himself on the sister. I quietly memorized all this information. Well, since I'm already here, I might as well heal them a bit. After all, I'm their little cream puff, right? The Wilson family mansion was bigger than a Barbie dream house. The three brothers were each colder than the last. They weren't much older than me. I listened to Mom's introductions and memorized each one. The eldest, Karen Wilson, didn't talk much. He excelled in everything and was currently reading a book. The second brother, Maverick Wilson, was on the couch playing video games, sucking on a lollipop, giving off rich kid energy despite his young age. The third brother, Julian Wilson, was looking at his laptop, wearing glasses. He glanced at me warmly since I entered the house. Aside from Julian nodding at me, the other two showed zero signs of welcome. I hid my jealousy of these rich boys and tugged on my new mom skirt, playing the role of a shy, insecure girl in a new environment wiped away non-existent tears. The brothers only act this way because of their trauma. Mom, I'm the outsider here. It's okay. I'll get along well with them. My sweet, considerate behavior gave the adults a taste of parenting joy. At dinner, I was charming and played the victim perfectly, creating a warm atmosphere around the parents. The other boys had never seen this level of performance. They couldn't get a word in, and just kept glancing at me. Anyone could see I looked more like the biological child than they did. The floating text started scrolling again. Oh, no. Tonight's the night. The brothers and baby girl will have a complete falling out. At the end of the day, the male leads are all starved for love. Baby girl just swooped in and stole what little attention the parents had for them. Their favorability rating for her is definitely at -100 now. Okay. The female lead will go comfort the brother soon. That's how the little sunshine warms everyone's hearts. Sure enough, after dinner, Maverick Wilson, sent by the team, came straight to me. Hey. So you're my new sister? I nodded and sweetly called him second brother. Seeing how easy I was to bully, Maverick sneered cruelly. Who said you could call me brother? This family doesn't need more siblings. Don't think just because mom and dad are nice to you for 1 second that you can do whatever you want. If you want to stay here, you'll be my toy. From now on, when you see me, you have to call me young master. Got it? But I remained calm and serious with a slight smile. But second brother, don't you know I'm actually mom and dad's biological child? You were picked up from next to a dumpster. Maverick looked completely confused. Yeah, actually. Those bad guys wanted to take me back then to protect me. Mom and dad sent me away early just in case. Before I could finish, Maverick interrupted. Impossible. Stop making things up. I'm going to have the butler kick you out right now. Of course I was making it up. But bad kids are easy to trick. Second brother, stop being stubborn. You already saw it at dinner. Mom and dad like me. Have they ever been that nice to you? I continued making things up. Think about it. How did those bad guys take you so easily back then? Obviously because you weren't important to mom and dad at all. Happy face, if you don't believe me. Go ask them right now and see who gets punished. Don't worry. The orphanage director is really nice. Even if you get sent there, he'll treat you well. Young master. Happy face. The little tyrant's face turned red as a beet. His entire worldview collapsed in an instant. He looked like a purple eggplant, wanting to argue back, but unable to find a reasonable response. Seeing him glare at me with gritted teeth, I summarized simply, so I'm the real daughter. And you're the fake young master. From now on, when you see me, don't call me sister. Call me young miss. Maverick clenched his jaw, then calmed down. You think I'll fall for that? I'm not an idiot. I'm going to ask mom and dad right now. I wasn't worried. After all, I'd already played the victim with my new mom in the car. As for Maverick, because of what I just said, he wouldn't directly ask about his origins to be safe. Most likely, he'd test how mom felt about me. Soon enough, I saw Maverick shuffle out of the parents' room, looking defeated. He was a changed person. His eyes lifeless. Mom took away all my allowance. She's never done that to me before. I calmly said, oh, and watched him break down. Don't get too cocky. So what if you're the real daughter? Mom and Dad raised me all this time. They still have feelings for me. Facing the still stubborn second brother, I changed my attitude and raised my hand. Maverick thought I was going to slap him. He stubbornly didn't move. But tears were already welling up in his eyes. It seemed like he was planning to let everyone see that I was the one bullying him. However, I just patted his shoulder. Even though you took my identity, I don't blame you, second brother. You suffered through that incident in my place. I should actually thank you. The little tyrant froze. He'd just come to pick a fight. He never expected that even though I was the real daughter, I could stay this calm and rational. The more he thought about it, the more unsettling it became. I was exactly like Dad. I could feel Maverick's suspicion of me shrink a bit more. I said warmly and considerately, "It's okay. We're still family. From now on, I think Mom and Dad won't mind raising one extra outsider." This didn't comfort Maverick at all. He looked even more devastated. The butler saw Maverick looking furious from afar, usually a sign he was about to cause chaos, and hurried over. "Second young master. Do you want to play with cars tonight?" "Sir. Just bought you a little Lamborghini." But Maverick shook his head lifelessly. In just half an hour, he'd lost all sense of belonging. "Butler, uncle. Bring me my piggy bank. Need to return everything to my sister." The butler looked delighted. "Second young master, you finally called me uncle." Under my gaze, Maverick awkwardly called him uncle again. Of course, I didn't force him. Maverick's brain had finally returned to normal functioning. He figured it was time to win people over, so he wouldn't be alone when he got kicked out. The butler was moved to tears. It's been so long since second young master acted like a human being. The floating text was flooded with question marks. Wait, what is this warm little sunshine? By warm, do they mean slap first, then set on fire? Maverick was terrified I'd let something slip in front of others, so he stuck to me every second. The little tyrant had a stiff face, but had to pretend to be humble and please me. He stopped playing games, and stopped caring where the parents' attention fell. Most importantly, he didn't dare act neglected anymore. He was just a thief who stole someone else's parents. After discovering I was better than him in every way, Maverick became even more afraid. He worried that once he had no value, Mom and Dad would abandon him. Whenever this happened, I'd comfort him. "It's okay, second brother. The orphanage isn't that bad. Except for having to catch cockroaches and rats to eat every day. Well, if you behave, they'll let you watch TV for half an hour." Maverick's eyes went wide with shock. That's no place for humans to live. Seeing me suddenly go quiet, as if I'd recalled bad memories, second brother panicked. "That's not what I meant. It's all because I stole your life. That place should be for me to live in." After saying something soft, Maverick felt something was off. He felt like I'd taken his brain out for a walk. He tried to figure it out. "Wait, that's not right. I was taken in your place. And I didn't steal your identity on purpose. I don't need to apologize." I just stared at him blankly without arguing, my eyes reddening. Yes. Second brother was caught by the bad guys instead of me. Maybe I shouldn't have come back at all. I should have stayed at the orphanage, sleeping with the rats. That way, second brother wouldn't have to worry. After saying that, I went back to my room to eat snacks, looking dejected. Always being harsh would trigger rebellion. Sometimes, you need to add a touch of fragile vulnerability to make people think you're only strong on the surface. Bullying the weak would make him feel bad. The next morning, when I woke up, I saw Maverick sitting at my bedside. The little tyrant looked a bit guilty. He hadn't slept all night. "Miss Sister, do you want to play video games with me today? Or you can yell at me a few times. Hit me too. I definitely won't fight back." Although second brother had already changed a lot, I knew I couldn't stop the treatment now, or his bad temper would come back. So I chose to avoid him and let him spiral on his own. It's good that he can't figure it out. That's how all those real versus fake daughter dramas go. I turned and went to wander around the eldest brother. Instead, the floating text started giving bad advice. Spill hot tea on his favorite book. Then cry and say you didn't mean it. He will be furious, but your tears will melt his frozen heart. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost got stuck looking at my own brain. Who came up with this garbage? If someone spilled hot tea on my favorite book, I would throw them out the window. Karen was the eldest and he carried the weight of the family's expectations. He didn't need a clumsy, weeping idiot in his life. He needed peace, quiet, and someone who didn't demand a piece of his soul every 5 seconds. I marched straight into the grand library on the 3rd floor. It smelled like expensive leather and old paper. Karen was sitting in a high-backed armchair by the window. The sunlight hit his face, making him look like a melancholy prince from a painting. He didn't even look up when I walked in. I didn't say a word. I just dragged a massive footstool across the floor. The wooden legs screeched against the polished wood. Karen's eyebrow twitched. I parked the stool right across from him and plopped down. Then I pulled a thick, dusty encyclopedia of modern weaponry off the bottom shelf. I opened it and started reading. I didn't try to make cute noises. I didn't try to strike up a conversation. I just breathed quietly and flipped the pages. 10 minutes passed. 20 minutes passed. The silence was so heavy you could cut it with a knife. The floating text was panicking. Why isn't she doing anything? This is so boring. Baby girl is going to be ignored forever. Idiots. They didn't understand the psychology of a neglected overachiever. Karen was used to people either demanding his attention or ignoring his existence entirely. He wasn't used to someone simply coexisting in his space without asking for anything. Eventually, I heard the soft rustle of his book closing. I looked up, keeping my expression perfectly neutral. Karen stared at me with eyes as cold as a winter lake. "What are you doing here?" he asked. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't used it in days. "Reading," I replied simply. "There are other rooms. This one has the best light," I said, pointing to the window. "And you are quiet." Karen blinked. "Most kids are loud," I continued, turning back to my encyclopedia. "I prefer quiet people. If you want me to leave, just say so. But you'll have to speak up, because I plan on ignoring anything less than a direct command." I saw a faint glimmer of amusement in his icy eyes. He didn't tell me to leave. He just opened his book again. We sat there in comfortable silence for another hour. It was a victory. I had established my territory without firing a single shot. Suddenly, the heavy mahogany doors burst open. Maverick stumbled in, carrying a silver tray loaded with juice boxes, sliced fruit, and tiny sandwiches. He looked terrified, balancing the tray like his life depended on it. "Young miss," he panted, his face red. "I brought you snacks. You must be hungry after walking all the way up to the 3rd floor." Karen slowly lowered his book. He stared at his tyrannical younger brother, who was currently bowing like a medieval servant. "Maverick," Karen said slowly. "What are you doing?" Maverick stiffened, clearly torn between his fear of his older brother and his newfound terror of me. I am serving the young miss," Maverick stuttered. "It is my duty." Karen looked at me. I just shrugged and picked up a tiny cucumber sandwich. "Second brother is very thoughtful," I said calmly. "He realized that since he took my place all those years ago, he owes me a lifetime of servitude. Isn't that right, Maverick?" Maverick nodded furiously. "Yes, it's all my fault. Please eat the sandwich, young Mississippi." Karen looked like he was having an aneurysm. His brain was desperately trying to process why the family bully was acting like a beaten dog. "Took your place," Karen repeated. I took a delicate bite of the sandwich. "It's a long story, eldest brother. We wouldn't want to burden you with it. You have enough to worry about." I patted Maverick's arm. "You may leave now, second brother. Go sweep the driveway or something." "Yes, right away," Maverick said, rushing out of the room faster than a bullet. Karen stared at the empty doorway, then back at me. "You broke him." "I fixed him," I corrected. "He was a terror, now he is productive." "You're welcome." Karen didn't say anything, but the corner of his mouth twitched upward. It was the ghost of a smile. The floating text exploded with pink hearts. "Ah," the eldest brother smiled. "She is a genius." The little cream puff is actually a mastermind. I ignored the text and went back to my book. I had secured the second brother through fear and the eldest brother through mutual respect. That just left the third brother. Julian. The creepy one. The future obsessive villain. I didn't have to look for him, because he found me. That night, I was sitting on my luxurious king-sized bed, counting the imaginary $50,000 in my head. The door clicked open without a knock. Julian stood in the doorway, wearing his neat pajamas and pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Hello, new sister," he whispered. He closed the door behind him and locked it. Red flags immediately went up in my brain. This was the classic villain entrance. I stayed calm and patted the space next to me on the bed. "Hi, Julian. Do you want to come count sheep with me?" He walked over, but he didn't sit. He stood over me, pulling a sleek tablet from behind his back. "I did some digging," Julian said softly. His voice was sweet, but there was a sharp edge underneath. "You told Maverick a very interesting story today. Something about being the real daughter." I didn't flinch. Word travels fast in this big house. Julian tapped the screen of his tablet. "I hacked into the orphanage's database. I also hacked into our family's medical records. I have the DNA profiles of everyone in this house." He leaned in closer, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "You aren't related to us at all. You are exactly what you seem to be. An orphan they brought in to fix us." He smiled a terrifying, triumphant smile. "I could show this to Maverick right now. I could show it to Mom and Dad. You would be thrown out into the street before morning." The floating text was having a complete meltdown. Game over. The villain is too smart. Run, baby girl, pack your bags and jump out the window. I slowly reached out and gently pushed the tablet away from my face. "Wow, Julian," I said, making my voice sound full of awe. "You are incredibly smart." He blinked, confused by my lack of panic. "Did you not hear me?" he asked. "I know your secret." "I heard you," I said cheerfully. "But let's think about this logically, third brother. If you expose me, what happens?" "Maverick goes back to being an unbearable, spoiled brat who terrorizes everyone. Eldest brother goes back to sitting in silence, carrying the weight of the world alone. And Mom and Dad go back to being stressed and disappointed." I tilted my head, studying him. "But more importantly, what happens to you?" Julian frowned. "What do you mean?" "You like observing people, don't you?" I said. "You sit back and watch the chaos. But this family was boring before I got here. Now, you have a brother who acts like a maid, an eldest brother who actually smiled today, and a new sister who is lying through her teeth just to survive." I leaned closer to him, matching his intense gaze. "I am the most entertaining thing that has ever happened to you, Julian. If you kick me out, the show ends." He stared at me, his breath hitching slightly. His dark, calculating eyes searched my face for any sign of fear. He found none. Because I wasn't afraid. I had survived 56-year-old creeps and chubby aspiring husbands. A 12-year-old hacker in pajamas was nothing. Julian slowly lowered the tablet. A genuine, slightly unhinged grin spread across his face. "You are crazy," he whispered. "I'm pragmatic," I corrected. "And I like money. 50,000 a month is a lot of money, Julian. I am not giving that up without a fight." He let out a low, dark chuckle. It was the sound of a villain finding his match. "All right, fake sister," Julian said. "I will keep your secret. But in exchange, you have to let me study you. You belong to me now. Your secrets are my property." I rolled my eyes. "Whatever makes you happy, weirdo. Just don't stand over my bed while I'm sleeping, it's creepy." Julian laughed again, louder this time. He unlocked the door and stepped out into the hallway. "Good night, little liar," he called out. "Good night, little stalker," I replied. The door clicked shut. I fell back onto the pillows and exhaled a long breath. 3 brothers down. The floating text was completely silent for a full minute. Then, a single line floated across my vision. "She tamed the psycho by out-psychoing him." I smirked into the darkness. The Wilson household settled into a bizarre, fragile peace over the next few weeks. It was a peace built on lies, manipulation, and mutual benefit. And I was the queen sitting at the center of the chessboard. Maverick continued to treat me like royalty. He polished my shoes, carried my backpack to the car, and aggressively defended me from imaginary threats. If a servant even looked at me funny, Maverick was there, threatening to fire them. Mom and Dad were ecstatic. They thought their unruly son had finally learned humility and brotherly love. They doubled my allowance. I was now raking in $100,000 a month. I opened a secret offshore bank account online, courtesy of Julian's hacking skills. Julian had become my shadow. He followed me everywhere, analyzing my interactions, taking notes on his tablet. He thought he was studying a rare specimen. In reality, he was just acting like a socially awkward puppy who didn't know how to make friends. I occasionally threw him a bone by letting him help me forge documents or hack into the school's grading system to change Maverick's terrible test scores. Karen, the eldest, had thawed significantly. He still didn't speak much, but he started leaving books outside my door. Not encyclopedias, but novels. Stories about survival, strategy, and chess. It was his silent way of saying he understood what I was doing, and he approved. Everything was going perfectly until the annual Founders Gala. The Wilson family was one of the founding families of the city's elite private academy. Attendance was mandatory. It was a night of rubbing elbows with billionaires, politicians, and the most snobbish children on the planet. Mom hired a team of stylists to dress us. I was stuffed into a ridiculously expensive white gown that made me look like an actual cream puff. I hated it, but for $100,000 a month, I would wear a garbage bag made of clown wigs. When I walked down the grand staircase, the three brothers were waiting in the foyer. They were all dressed in tailored tuxedos. Maverick looked at me with tears in his eyes. "Young miss looks like an angel," he sniffled. "I am not worthy to walk on the same floor as you." "Shut up, Maverick, and wipe your nose," I said plainly. Julian stood in the corner, typing rapidly on his phone. "I just hacked the gala's security system," he whispered as I walked past. "If anyone insults you, I can drop the chandelier on them." "Let's save the murder for a backup plan, Julian," I sighed. Karen simply offered me his arm. I took it, and we walked out to the waiting limousine. The gala was held in a massive ballroom filled with crystal chandeliers and people who smelled like old money and new arrogance. As soon as we entered, all eyes turned to us. Or rather, to me. The mysterious new daughter of the Wilson Empire. Whispers erupted across the room. The floating text started buzzing furiously. "Here comes the green TB*TCH. The villainess of the school is going to challenge baby girl. She's going to pour red wine on her dress." I immediately scanned the room for anyone holding red wine. Sure enough, a girl in a sparkling red dress was marching toward us. She had blonde hair perfectly curled, and a sneer painted on her glossy lips. In her hand was a crystal glass brimming with dark red wine. Her name was Chloe, the daughter of the Wilsons' biggest corporate rival. Well, Chloe purred as she stopped in front of us. "If it isn't the Wilsons." She looked me up and down like I was a piece of trash that had blown in through the front door. "And who is this little street rat? I heard your parents picked up a stray from the pound." Before I could even open my mouth, the dynamic shifted. I didn't need to say a word. The brothers reacted instantly. Maverick stepped forward, his fists clenched, his old tyrant persona flaring up. "Don't you dare speak to her like that," Maverick barked. "She is worth 10 of you, you plastic Barbie doll. If you take one more step toward my sister, I will personally throw you into the decorative fountain." Chloe gasped, taking a step back in shock. Maverick had never defended anyone in his life. Julian casually stepped to my other side, pulling out his phone. "Chloe Vance," Julian said, his voice eerily calm and sweet. "Did you know your father's offshore tax evasion files are highly unsecured? It would be a shame if an anonymous tip was sent to the IRS tonight. A very big shame." Chloe's face drained of color. The wine glass in her hand trembled. Karen didn't yell, and he didn't threaten. He simply let go of my arm and took a step toward Chloe. His presence was overwhelming. He looked down at her with an expression of pure, freezing disdain. "Leave," Karen said. One word. It held the authority of a young king. Chloe burst into tears, turned around, and ran away, spilling her red wine on her own dress in her haste. I stood there, blinking in surprise. I hadn't had to lift a finger. The floating text was going wild. The brothers are protecting her. They are so cool. The little cream puff is heavily guarded. I looked at the three of them. Maverick was panting slightly, looking proud of himself. Julian was smiling his creepy smile, putting his phone away. Karen had quietly returned to my side and offered his arm again. For the first time since I arrived, I felt a strange warmth in my chest. It wasn't the thrill of manipulation or the joy of securing my allowance. It was the terrifying realization that these three messed up boys actually cared about me. I had manipulated them into it, sure. But the emotion was real. They were fiercely protective of the one person who had brought order to their chaotic lives. Thanks, I mumbled, feeling my cheeks heat up slightly. But I could have handled her. We know, Karen said softly. But you shouldn't have to. I looked away, swallowing the sudden lump in my throat. Damn it. I was supposed to be the cold-hearted therapist scamming them for cash. I wasn't supposed to get attached. The rest of the gala went off without a hitch. Nobody dared to approach us after the Chloe incident. We sat at our VIP table, eating caviar that tasted like salty jelly and making fun of the other guests. Even Karen joined in, pointing out a wealthy CEO who had toilet paper stuck to a shoe. It felt like a real family. But peace never lasts long in a drama. As we were leaving the venue, waiting for the valet to bring the limousine, disaster struck. The floating text had warned me earlier, but I had ignored it in the excitement of the party. The villain's minions are waiting in the alley. Kidnapping plot incoming. Protect the brothers. I suddenly felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. A black van suddenly screeched around the corner, jumping the curb. The side door slid open. 4 men in dark masks leaped out. They weren't aiming for me. They were aiming for Karen. He was the heir to the Wilson Empire, the most valuable target. Everything moved in slow motion. The valet screamed and ran. Maverick froze in terror. Julian dropped his phone. Karen tried to step back, but one of the men grabbed his tuxedo jacket. My brain went blank. I forgot about the money. I forgot about my grand plans. I just reacted. I kicked off my ridiculous high heels and sprinted forward. I lunged at the man grabbing Karen, using my entire body weight to tackle him around the waist. We crashed onto the pavement. The man cursed, letting go of Karen to shove me off. Run, I screamed at the brothers. Get inside the building. But they didn't run. Instead of fleeing, Maverick roared with rage and threw himself at the second attacker, punching wildly. Julian didn't hesitate. He pulled a customized, high-voltage taser from his tuxedo pocket and jammed it into the third man's leg. The man dropped like a sack of potatoes, convulsing. Karen, freed from the grasp of the first attacker, didn't retreat. He turned around, his eyes blazing with fury, and delivered a brutal, precise kick to the fourth man's knee. A sickening crack echoed in the night air. I scrambled to my feet, my beautiful white dress torn and stained with dirt. The first man I had tackled pulled out a knife. He lunged at me. Before the blade could reach me, Karen pulled me behind him. He took the slash meant for me. The knife sliced through his sleeve, drawing a line of bright red blood. Karen, I screamed. The sirens wailed in the distance. The gala security guards were finally rushing out the doors. Realizing they were outnumbered and out of time, the attackers scrambled back into the black van. The tires squealed, and the van vanished into the night. The chaos settled, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing and approaching sirens. I grabbed Karen's arm, pressing my hands against the bleeding cut. You idiot, I yelled, tears springing to my eyes. Why didn't you run? Why did you jump in front of the knife? Karen looked down at me. His face was pale, but he was calm. You jumped first, he whispered. Maverick ran over, his knuckles bruised and bleeding. He looked terrified but incredibly brave. Sister, Maverick cried. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? Julian walked up, casually stepping over the groaning man he had tossed. He looked at the blood on my hands. His eyes darkened into a terrifying, murderous void. I have the van's license plate, Julian said, his voice devoid of all emotion. I have their facial structures memorized from the brief moment the mask slipped. I will ruin their lives. I will tear them apart piece by piece. I pulled all three of them into a massive, clumsy hug. My hands were covered in Karen's blood, my dress was ruined, and my feet were freezing on the concrete. But I didn't care. You're all idiots, I sobbed, laughing at the same time. You're all huge, stupid idiots. They hugged me back. Maverick was crying loudly. Julian buried his face in my shoulder. Karen rested his chin on the top of my head, holding me tight. The floating text was scrolling so fast I could barely read it. The trauma bond is complete. They are a real family now. She saved them, and they saved her. I am crying so hard right now. The aftermath of the attack was chaotic. The police arrived, statements were taken, and we were rushed to the hospital. Karen's wound wasn't deep, but it required stitches. Mom and Dad arrived at the hospital in a panic, crying and holding us. When they saw the security footage, they were stunned. They saw their fragile, fractured sons fighting like wild animals to protect their new sister. And they saw their new daughter throwing herself at a grown man to save her brother. From that night on, the dynamic in the Wilson house changed permanently. The lies I had told didn't matter anymore. I knew that Julian knew the truth, and I suspected Karen had figured it out too. Even Maverick, deep down, probably realized I wasn't his biological sister. But none of them cared. Blood didn't make us family. Bleeding together did. Years passed. The floating text occasionally popped up, but I rarely paid attention to it anymore. I didn't need spoilers to know how my life was going to turn out. Karen took over the family business. He grew into a cold, ruthless CEO, but he always made time to have afternoon tea with me. He still bought me books, but now they were first editions worth thousands of dollars. Maverick surprisingly channeled his aggression into sports. He became a professional mixed martial artist. He was terrifying in the ring, but he still called me "young miss" when nobody was listening. He still brought me snacks whenever he visited. Julian was still Julian. He became a shadowy tech billionaire. He had eyes everywhere. He was probably hacking my phone right now just to make sure I was reading a good book. He never became the obsessive villain who forced himself on me. Instead, he became the overprotective guard dog who terrorized any boy who dared to look in my direction. No one could ask me out on a date without their entire search history mysteriously leaking to their parents. It was annoying, but I loved him for it. As for me, I kept my $50,000 allowance. Actually, Karen bumped it up to $500,000 when he became CEO. I was filthy rich, fiercely protected, and completely happy. I didn't have to act like a demon child to escape. I didn't have to be an emotional support pet. I just had to be their sister. I sat on the balcony of my penthouse, sipping a glass of expensive juice. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city. A final message floated across my vision, glowing softly in the twilight. The story has reached its happy ending. The little cream puff conquered the wolves. She won. I smiled, raising my glass to the empty air. Yes, I whispered to myself. I certainly did. And I didn't even have to jump out of the car. The orphanage therapist had successfully retired. The family therapist was officially off the clock. Now, I was just me. And life was incredibly good. I closed my eyes, letting the warm breeze wash over me. The floating text faded away, never to return. I didn't need it anymore. My reality was far better than any script. It was messy, chaotic, and entirely my own. The end. But really, just the beginning of everything I ever wanted. Peace, money, and 3 extremely dangerous brothers who loved me. Who could ask for anything more? I took another sip of my juice and watched the stars come out. The world was quiet. And for the first time in my life, I was perfectly safe. It was a masterpiece of my own making. And I wouldn't change a single word. The chapters written in blood and laughter were complete. Tomorrow would just be another beautiful, ordinary day. And I couldn't wait. Good night, world. Good night, drama. Hello, forever. The curtain falls, and the little cream puff sleeps soundly. With a final sigh, I went inside. The doors closed. The story ends here. Perfectly, wonderfully complete. A triumph of survival and love. The greatest scam I ever pulled was becoming a real family. And I'd do it all over again. Every single second. Without hesitation. Because some lies are worth turning into the truth. And some families are chosen, not born. This was mine. Forever and always. And that is a wrap for today's story here on Read Pulse. Honestly, I am completely obsessed with how our female lead handled this whole situation. She didn't just sit around crying or playing the victim like a typical little cream puff. Instead, she used her brains to out-psycho the villains and accidentally built a fiercely loyal family in the process. It proves that sometimes the bonds forged in pure chaos are the strongest ones of all. What did you guys think of her mastermind tactics? Would you have stayed for that massive monthly allowance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.